Welcome to episode 43 of Teachers in Transition. I am Kitty Boitnott of Teachers in Transition and Boitnott Coaching, LLC. And this week we're going to be talking about a career transition strategy, but with a twist, because I am interviewing my new friend, Brittany Long of Life After Teaching. And what I wanted to offer to listeners today and those who might be watching on YouTube is a little bit about what Brittany does, how she came to be doing the work that she's doing, and how the work that she and I do have some synergy, because not all of the clients that she works with would be interested in what I have to offer and vice versa. So we can help one another out by helping the teachers in our communities find the resources that best suit their needs. So Brittany, I'm going to just turn it over to you for a few minutes, and if you would talk about what your background is as a teacher, and also a little bit about what led you to be doing what you're doing now. And then finally, and I'll just let you talk as long as you want to talk. I might interrupt with a question, but in general, I'm going to let you pretty much talk through this episode. Finally, offer what resources you have to provide to teachers and how they can find you.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm really excited to be here with you, and it's always nice to find kind of kindred spirits in all of this. So I am a former teacher. I taught for 4 years, and I always felt like teaching was something maybe I should do because it felt like it was in my blood. My father was a teacher for 37 years. My husband was a teacher. My father-in-law was a teacher. It was just, I was surrounded by teachers. And so I felt like this makes sense. I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. And I always enjoyed helping people. And I thought teaching was really the only way to do that. And so that's kind of how that started for me. So I was a teacher for 4 years, but 2 years into that, I had a cancer scare. And I remember sitting in the doctor's office and being told it was aggressive and genuinely not thinking I was going to be alive within that next year. And I remember feeling so much regret. And you know, there was that fear and everything, but the overwhelming emotion that I felt was regret. And it wasn't because I had left things undone. It was because I had so much potential, and I always pushed it off. I always said, you know, I'll get to it next year. I'll try it next year. Maybe when I have more time, maybe when I'm on summer break. And I kept pushing it back because it seemed a little scary, but I regretted not doing it. I regretted not taking a risk on myself, essentially. And so walking out of the doctor's office that day, of course, there was that fear, but more than anything, there was regret. And I decided, if this is going to be my last year on earth, I'm not going to continue to live in regret. I'm going to figure out something else. And I know that it's not teaching. And so it gave me this really huge moment of clarity that I don't think I would have otherwise had. I really think we're kind of put in situations sometimes that push us out of our comfort zone. And that really is exactly what happened to me. And so I had to decide, am I okay with staying where I am? If this is my last year on earth, am I okay with staying where I am? Or do I want something bigger and better and maybe more freeing than where I'm currently at? And so I had to get really real about that. And over the next 2 weeks, I did that. And after those 2 weeks, I found out that my doctor was wrong. I didn't have cancer. It wasn't aggressive. It was just right. Such a blessing. But that moment changed my life forever. And I'm so grateful, even though it was fairly traumatic and I still, get really nervous going to doctors. I'm really, really thankful for it because it changed its trajectory. And I think a lot of times people think it has to be that moment, that like life or death sort of face your own mortality moment, but it doesn't have to be. It's saying where I'm at isn't where I'm supposed to be anymore. And I felt it for a while. So what am I going to do next about it? And asking yourself those, what's my next step kind of questions. And so that's what I started doing. And I started with an Etsy shop. Actually, no, before that I started doing MLM, multi-level marketing. And I was really bad at it. And it just wasn't for me. It wasn't my cup of tea. But I tried it for a little bit. And then from there, I tried doing photography because I've always enjoyed being creative. And so I thought maybe that's my next thing. So I tried photography. It wasn't for me. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't something I really wanted to do for money. It was something I wanted to do more as a hobby. Mm-hmm. And then I tried an Etsy shop, and that was probably the most successful of all of them so far. But I realized for me, it wasn't scalable. And it wasn't something, again, that I really enjoyed doing for money. I enjoyed doing it for friends. I enjoyed doing it for fun. But I didn't really enjoy doing it and getting paid for it, which is not great if you're trying to find a new career. So I kept trying all these different things. So my next thing was graphic design. And then from there, I was able to fall into copywriting and email marketing and funnel building. And I love those things. And that's what I've landed on. And I feel like for the first time in my life, I feel like this is the thing that I am perfectly equipped for and perfectly fitted for. And it took a lot of effort and a lot of frustration and a lot of Googling and YouTubing and figuring things out. But it was something I never would have thought of before. I used to think that I was too dumb to learn tech, which I laugh about now. It's so silly to think about now, but that's where my mindset was. As a teacher, I had this fixed mindset of, these are the skills I have. This is what I'll be doing the rest of my life. And I felt so stuck. And I stayed stuck because I didn't think there was any other option. But once I started asking myself, how can I get out of this? How can I learn this? Everything changed for me. And so that brings me to where I am today. And I also help teachers, like you mentioned, I help teachers who want to leave teaching, start a side hustle, or start a side hustle, make into a full-time hustle, and then leave teaching, which is what I did. I help teachers do that. And it's really cool to see how people like me that didn't think their side hustle could turn into anything more are now taking this side hustle and really making a full-time career out of it, and making more than they did teaching, and having more freedom. I mean, if you had asked me 18 months ago, because that's how long I've been doing this, 18 months, that's it. If you asked me 18 months ago if I thought this kind of life was possible for me, I would have said absolutely not. Absolutely not. But in 8 months, we paid off $60K in debt. My husband now works from home as well. He's a teacher. Now he works from home as well, because I was making enough with my side hustle turned full-time hustle. And life just looks completely different for us now. I mean, if I feel sick, I can stay home and work in bed if I want, or not work at all for that day. And it's not a big deal. I don't have to turn in sub plans or anything. So, that brings me to where I am today. So, Kitty, do you have any questions?
I do. So tell me a little bit about, you do the funnel work for other entrepreneurs, I'm assuming?
Yes, that's correct. So small to medium businesses. And then we're also teaching individuals who want to learn funnel building. I think it's really fun. So we teach them how to build funnels also. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as far as your work with teachers who are looking for a side hustle, what does that look like? How does that shape up when they come to you?
So it depends a little bit on what they're looking for. I have something called the Next Step Roadmap, and it really takes them, it's a 30, well, I say 30, but it's closer to 37 steps that are just small, actionable steps that they can take to really get a direction. Because that's one of the biggest problems people have, is they're like, I know I'm made for something more. I know I can do something more. I know I have that potential, like how I felt, but I don't know what to do with it, or I don't know what that looks like. And so I help kind of break down for them, here are your options. Here's some things that you need to think about. Here's some mindset issues that are holding you back. And we really walk through that process together for those 37 steps. And so really that's what it looks like. It helps them kind of narrow down what they're looking for, what they'd be well suited for, and helps them get to this point where they're like, wait a minute, I've always loved doing this. You mean I could figure out a way to actually do this and make money? Like we have someone right now that loves making jewelry. And she was like, this would be like my deathbed wish. If I could do anything in the world, this is what it would be. But I have to wait till I'm retired, or I have to wait till this, or I have to wait till that. And I was like, no, if this is your deathbed wish, why are you waiting until your deathbed to do it? Why not go for it now? And so we've kind of helped her figure out a plan to do that. And she's started doing it. And she's already, within the first 2 weeks of us doing this, she's already making money making jewelry for people. It's great.
Awesome. And now one of the email exchanges that we had was that you're not interested in teaching people how to find traditional jobs. Is that right?
Right. That's, yeah. And I know that's something you're really good at. It's just not really in my wheelhouse, and I'm not really interested in it, because it's not something that's ever really interested in me, is going back to another traditional job.
So that's why I said that we're synergistically interconnected, because I do help people find traditional jobs where they need to write a resume and cover letter and have LinkedIn and know how to interview. That's not where your focus is.
Correct.
But now I did notice on your blog that you do some at least I saw one message at least about self-care. So do you all also offer support in that area, or is that just something that you write blog posts about periodically?
No, we do support in that area. Actually, right now we're doing a 30-day self-care for teachers challenge. A few weeks ago, somebody in my Life After Teaching Facebook group, they said, here's a self-care bingo, say all the ones that you've done. And so many of the teachers said, I haven't done any of those in years.
Oh my goodness.
I know. And I'm thinking, of course you guys are feeling burnt out and frustrated and tired because you're pouring from an empty glass. And so we started the Self-Care for Teachers Challenge, and it's just one step they can take every day to care for themselves a little bit more. On the first day, it was something super simple. It was just taking a minute to breathe. And so many of them were like, this helps so much. And I didn't think it would because it's only 1 minute, but they were noticing all the stress and tension that started to release just from focusing on their breathing for 1 minute.
Well, I saw that and I thought that's another area that we cross over because I'm a certified stress management coach.
Oh, wonderful.
And I've written an ebook on stress management strategies, not just for teachers, but for anybody who feels stressed out and stretched beyond their limits and overwhelmed with work, life, relationships, or whatever. So that's another area that we have in common.
Yeah.
So how would people find you, Brittany, if they were interested in learning more about maybe figuring out a side hustle for themselves, or maybe they've already established the idea for an online business, but now they need to know how to build that email list and the funnel. And they need your support for that. How would they find you?
There's 4 ways. It really depends on what avenue they like to go on. If it's on Instagram, it would be Life After Teaching League. If it's on website, it would be lifeafterteaching.com. They can email me, Brittany, Brittany, at lifeafterteaching.com, and or the Life After Teaching with Brittany and Zachary Long Facebook group. Any of those are a great way to reach out to me.
Okay. So what are some of the things you mentioned? The one teacher who's wanting to do jewelry as her deathbed wish, and so now she's building that. Over the course of the last 18 months, I know you probably can't talk specifically about a lot of your clients, but if you can give an example or two beyond the jewelry, what are some other ideas that some of your clients have picked up on and decided to go with?
So one of our teachers, they're a current teacher, they've always wanted to be a writer. They've always wanted to write books. They've always wanted to write for this one large film company especially. And they said, but that's just not realistic. And so it's been really fun to kind of chisel away at what they think is possible for them. And so they've gone from not writing or editing really anything to starting their book, to writing or to editing for a client and getting paid for it. And and they're starting to open up to the idea of maybe I could work for this company that is like my dream company to work for. And that one's a little bit different because, like I said, I don't normally help with other companies, but their focus really is on writing their own books, on working with other clients, and then being a freelancer for this other company. And so that's one too. They're just getting their first editing client and getting paid for it was huge. It was really cool to see how their perspective shifted from this is just not possible to, oh my gosh, this just happened and I'm getting paid for it.
Perfect. Well, so some of my clients like the idea of writing or pursuing some sort of talent that they have, but they run into the same problem that I suspect your clients tend to run into, at least at first, and that is, and you mentioned the mindset. So is part of what you do help people to expand their range of possibilities just by undertaking the notion that it's not as their lives are not as limited as they perhaps think when they first come to you? Is that one of the things that you talk about?
Absolutely. We talk about it a lot in the free Facebook group. Anytime somebody says, oh, I'd love to do this, but I say, okay, why don't you do that then? What's your next step? And so in that Facebook group, you'll see me constantly asking, okay, what's your next step? What's your next step? And that's one of the biggest things that help kind of flip that switch when it comes to mindset with teachers or with the teachers that I'm working with, it seems. And then with the next step roadmap, we go heavily into mindset. About the first week, it's just all mindset. And it's really interesting to see the shift that happens between the first week and the second week when they're chiseling away at these limiting beliefs that they didn't even know they had. And I've experienced that myself. That was the same thing for me. I just thought it's not possible to work at home. It's not possible to do this. And then all of a sudden I was doing it and I was like, if that's possible, what else could be possible for me?
Well, and that's, again, we have found another area where we are very in tune with one another, because I often implore my clients to be willing to play with possibilities, to be willing to dream big and not to worry about the practical how to make something happen at first, but to at least envision something bigger than they've got for themselves right now, and pursue whether or not it's practical later. But for right now, just let yourself dream and consider all of the possibilities, because I'm with you. Life is too short to limit yourself to one little chunk of the world when there's so much available for teachers and other professionals to use their talents, their gifts, their abilities in a way that can make the world a better place and a happier place for everybody concerned.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the things that I tell my teachers a lot is I say, you know, what is possible is determined by what you have decided for yourself is possible. Yeah. And so if you want more to be possible, then just decide that more is possible. And then, like you said, dream big first and then figure out how to get there later on.
Be willing. Suspend your disbelief and be willing to dream big for
I love that.
A little while. Yeah. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for being willing to be one of my guests. You're one of the few. I've only had a couple of guests up until this point. Normally, it's just me talking away about the topic of the day. So I'm really excited that you were willing and able to join me today. And I'll look forward to hearing from you that you've heard from some of the people who are listening in today. So Absolutely. That's it. Go ahead.
I was going to say thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to sending some of my teacher friends and teacher group that are like, okay, I want a new career, over to you. So it'll be really nice to have both of us for them.
It will. Yes, it will, and we'll be supporting them.
Yes.
That's it for today. Thank you for attending, listening in to Teachers in Transition, or watching on the YouTube channel. As always, if you have comments or questions, please feel free to email me at kittyboitnott@gmail.com, or reach out to Brittany so that she can help you dream big and consider what other possibilities are out there for you if your current job is no longer fulfilling and satisfying. Please review and leave a comment on Teachers in Transition. That helps other people find the podcast. And until next week, thanks again and have a wonderful week.